I'm Gayle Mack. Been a longtime sister of the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire, and been channeling here 20 since '96. I've been coming here. Missed one. So, like Judy said, this is a wonderful group, and every year our group gets more committed, and people step up and step into who they are. We've watched people grow, including myself, from when we first come in and we're novices and we think we're really smart and we have it going on, and then Divine shows us that we're in kindergarten, and then when we graduate, then we realize that we're back in kindergarten, just on another level. So what I'm sharing today is retaining your free will. That's the theme of this conference here. And we are in chaotic times, and we are in a time where we are trying to be, the light workers are trying to be subdued. But the light always wins, and the light always shines. Even in the darkest, there is light. Okay. So the definition of free will is the power of acting without constraint, of necessity of fate, the ability to act at one's own discretion. The gift of free will comes from God. It's innately ingrained in us. Mary Hardy received several years ago that we were in a struggle to retain our free will. And she has been working to share her wisdom and the knowledge and the accumulated knowledge of the sisters and brothers, those who come and speak at Sakkara. So we are in a time where our free will is being challenged. And at the time that Mary got this message, she really had no idea, and neither did any of us, the scope that that message held. And as the years have rolled by, the information has begun to surface, and people are stepping up, and wisdom is coming out, and secrets are coming out and being revealed. And we truly are in a silent, secret battle to retain our free will. I promise you, it's not all gloom and doom. So, for years without knowledge or our consent, our bodies have been being pummeled with synthetic life forms that are antennas, receivers, transmitters, microchips, and duplicators. These synthetic life forms infiltrate the human body and begin to set up a synthetic network inside our bodies that can be remotely controlled from the outside. These are a few: smart dust, nanochips, nanoparticles, nanobots, nanoribbons, nanosheets, quantum dots, multi-layered hydrogel, and spike proteins. They all mutate and modulate our DNA, our genes, and our cells, and they self-replicate within our body. These nanoparticles and spike proteins, they can induce acute and chronic inflammation and damage as they adhere to and penetrate and accumulate inside our cells, our tissue, our blood vessels, and our DNA. So, humanity, and we as a whole, are becoming genetically modified organisms without our consent. When we are birthed, we are created from God. And when we are genetically modified, we can now be patented. And we are being modified with genetically modified organisms with artificial intelligence. And you've been hearing that theme throughout this weekend. And again, it's not to create fear, it's to create awareness. So I will share more on frequency in a minute, but I first want to go through the individual items so you have an understanding of what's going on in our bodies and what is out there. So for you, I will not spend a lot of time on each item, so you can go out and research this. A lot of the information is out there and it's easily achieved. And if you don't find it in one source, you just keep finding it and you eventually will. So I choose to be part of the solution, S-O-U-L-lution, instead of the chaos. There is enough of that. So, with trillions of self-replicating robots and computer chips within our bodies, we are becoming susceptible to frequency manipulation and control, which can seriously interfere with our free will. And again, I'm not speaking to create fear, but I'm bringing awareness and giving you some counteractive ways to take care of the issues and allowing you to make informed, conscious choice for you and your body. Because we can. So we have the knowing, we have the ability, and through our God-given rights and our abilities and the gifts that God gave us, we have the right and the ability to rise above all things, because all things are frequency. And keep that in mind, frequency. And Judy just spoke about that here too. So frequency is generated from the nanoparticles and the nanobots. And frequency shifts and raises our frequency. And when you are in a state of unconditional love, no other frequency can interfere. So here we go. Smart dust. So smart dust are wireless sensor networks of tiny micro electromechanical systems. And for short, it's MEMS. Oftentimes they're called motes. So these are small as a grain of sand. They are miniaturized devices that are equipped with sensors, cameras, and communication mechanisms that collect and transmit data. The delivery system is usually aerosol, inhalation, or through liquids. These miniature robots detect light, temperature, vibration, sound, pressure, magnetism, chemicals, and our chemistry within our body. They sense radio frequency through identification, and they are powered by batteries or kinetic energy, radio frequencies, and they can be deployed by capsules, inhalation over a vast, hard-to-reach areas and vast areas. And you know, if you look up in the sky, smart dust has been found to be vulnerable to disablement and destruction through microwave exposure, which is frequency. So they are activated by frequency, and they are disabled by frequency. Graphene oxide. So graphene oxides are a family of nanoparticles, and the acronym is GFN, if you see that. They include graphene quantum dots, graphene oxide nanoparticles, graphene oxide nanoribbons, graphene oxide nanosheets, graphene oxide multi-layered hydrogel. Tongue twisters. So graphene oxides are nanoparticles that decrease our cells' viability by 50% within 24 hours of inhalation or contact and taking them into our body. Nanoparticles are widely used in electronics, aeronautics, energy, agriculture, cosmetics, medicine, textile production, feminine hygiene products, processed foods, and many other fields. Nanobots are 25 times smaller than the width of a human hair, and they can travel through our blood. These are microscopic robots that are made of gold nanowire coated with red blood cells and platelet membranes, so our body takes them in as our body, so as not being an invader. Nanobots are robots that carry out specific functions. They can be programmed. Nanoparticles are 3,000 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair, and they are adhered to a plate or a sheet of graphene, which is a sheet of carbon. And then that graphene is dipped in a pH solution, gradient solution, that can gradually change from acid to alkaline. And in that change, the nanoparticles can actually decide which direction it needs to flow, and it'll change directions by changing from acid to alkaline within our bodies. Graphene oxide particles are covered with biocompatible matter that allows the cells to take it in. And graphene oxide damages our mitochondria. And our mitochondria are the energy production of our cells and for our body. It's why we feel tired when something is coming on and our immune system is compromised. So mitochondria, the energy centers involved in various signaling pathways, and they regulate cell death, which is apoptosis. And that is natural, so when a cell multiplies 50 times, then it naturally then dies away, and it has 50 more to generate and do healthy cells. And graphene oxide gets in the way of that. It speeds that process up. So graphene oxide increases oxidative stress, inflammatory cell necrosis, increases the permeability of the outer layer of the mitochondrial membrane, and it can change the mitochondrial membrane potential, which controls respiration rate and ATP synthesis. Graphene oxide particles can pass through the blood-brain barrier, the blood placenta barrier, the blood testes barrier, the blood-air barrier with aerosol inhalation, and it goes intratracheally. Say that 3 times fast. That. They enter the bloodstream, accumulate in the lungs, liver, and spleen. They can be absorbed by plasma proteins and by the cell's nucleus. Graphene oxide possess significant genotoxic properties that are toxic to our cells, that cause severe damage to our DNA. And it does it through chromosomal fragmentation, DNA strand breakage, DNA membrane mutations and alterations. And the graphene carbon rings and the hydrophobic DNA pairs can make DNA segments stand straight up or lay down and adhere to the surface of graphene and graphene sheets. The intermolecular forces then severely damage the end pairs of our DNA. The damage can cause increased genotoxicity, inflammation, cell infiltration, damages to our cells' membranes, and can trigger cytokine and chemokine inflammatory responses. Graphene oxide particles penetrate through the tracheobronchial airways and can transmit to the lungs, resulting in pulmonary edema and granuloma formulations. It can irritate and initiate cancer development. They can threaten the health of the next generation, and this is really important. Graphene oxide particles can threaten the health of the next generation if the mutation takes place in a reproductive cell, which impacts fertility and the health of our offspring, because it passes the blood placenta barrier and the blood testes barrier. So the sperm and the eggs can both be compromised, resulting in a genetically modified infant being born. So graphene oxide particles cause inflammation of the mucous membranes. They result in a loss of taste and partial loss of smell. Morgellons are black, white, or multicolored filaments that lie under the skin and are embedded or project from the skin, and their nanotechnology linked with Lyme disease, and particularly with Borrelia from Lyme. So why I do raindrop sessions in my office, and for several years now, as I'm doing raindrop on people, little fibers and hairs have been coming up out of the backs as I'm working on my clients. And at first it's like, oof, what is this? And I would pick them off and put them on the edge of the sheet, and it just kept coming. And I started researching this because all of a sudden I'm seeing it in like 70% of my clientele. So when I researched it, I found that it was the spike proteins and the morgellons and the pure essential oils were working them out of the body. So we do have recourse on how to balance our immune system. So symptoms of morgellons can create similar symptoms to Lyme, which is fatigue, joint pain, and neuropathy. So spike proteins are messenger molecules, mRNA, designed to be absorbed directly around and into the blood vessels and the capillary networks. The capillaries are the finest blood vessels in our body, where the blood flow is slow and where genes are released. Spike proteins were patented in 1998, and it was veterinary patents, the first two. And then, yes, you know who, had the first patent for human infiltration of spike protein in 2003. He was denied patents 4 times previously because the patent office could not find where his patent was beneficial to raising the immune system. And the 5th try, he got a patent. So each gene reads these spike proteins and then begins to manufacture trillions of spike proteins within our body. And our body recognizes them as foreign matter and then makes antibodies for protection. Spike proteins actually become part of the cell wall, and they line the blood vessels in the vascular endothelium. And the blood vessels are supposed to be smooth so that the blood cells can go through with grace and ease. And these spike proteins lodge themselves there, and they collect the blood cells and don't let them pass. And they begin to collect the platelets, and then you get microscopic and then larger blood clots. So spike proteins have been linked to myocarditis, and that is inflammation of the heart, the myocardium. And myocarditis can affect your heart muscle, your heart's electrical system, reduces heart's ability to pump blood, causes rapid or abnormal heart rhythms, which is arrhythmia, chest pain, fatigue, shortness of breath. Yeah. So, nanoparticles, spike proteins. Now, it's the happy part and the solutions. So Einstein said everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. So match the frequency. Match the frequency of the reality that we want to create, and it will become a reality. What have we been teaching here in Sakkara on several in many different ways, same theme, different place, so you can access raising your frequency, shifting energy, and you can apply it to many things. And now we've been working humanitarily, and we've been working on the earth. So it is now to bring that inside and work on the environment in our bodies. And what's the fastest way to raise your frequency is your mind and your heart. The first line of defense in raising your frequency is activating your frontal lobes, your limbic system, especially your pineal, your pituitary, the thousand-petal lotus, the amygdalas. We've been talking about the amygdalas for years, and raising your frontal lobes. Jesus, Mary Magdalene, the Marys, the Magis, the master teachers from all the different cultures, from many different cultures, I'll say, taught us to utilize our free will and to utilize our free will through using our divine freedom. John 10:18, no one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. How many have laid their free will down on their own accord? I have the authority to lay it down, and I have the authority to pick it up again. This charge I have received from my Father. Time to pick it up. So prevenient grace is preceding grace, and preceding grace is divine grace that precedes any human decision. Divine grace is the divine influence which operates in humans to generate, regenerate, and sanctify, to impart strength, to endure trials and tribulations, resist temptation, and is recognized as an individual virtue that we bestow upon ourselves and others. And many here in the Lightworkers, we work to raise our frequency so we are in grace, and we give ourselves grace, and we heal quickly through grace, and we are compassionate through grace. And that is the foundation of the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire, Sister and Brotherhood of the Emerald Fire. So free will is unable to begin or to perfect any true and spiritual good without grace. This grace precedes, it goes before, accompanies and follows, it excites and it assists us. So grace allows us to engage our God-given freedom of choice. And what has been in the past is in the past. So every day that you wake up, it's a new day. It's a great day for being a great day. And every moment, every breath you take, and every decision you make is an opportunity to recreate your desire and the reality that you choose, whether it's raising and being pure and free from nanobot technology, from achieving ascended information, from merging with your past life wisdom, with healing some issue of the body. Raising your frequency is a freedom of choice. And we are alchemists. We are shifters of energy. So shift the energy. Mary has this in her book, and she has been teaching this. You shift the energy of mass. Everything is frequency. And that's Einstein's E equals mc squared. So I spoke about this last year in We Are Alchemists, the Modern Day Therapeutic, and you can find this on Mary Hardy YouTube and many others from last year's conference. So how do we shift energy and mass? So we do it through our DNA. We do it through the piezoelectric crystals in our pineal and our cerebral spinal fluid, the original vibration in our essence of being. We activate that, and we activate that through our heart and moving into a state of unconditional love. Because we can. And our DNA are antennas, they're transmitters, they're transducers, they're capacitors, they store information, and they store it all at the same time. So everything you've ever been, everything you've experienced is in your DNA. It's also from your lineage and even the essence from your past lives. So we have the ability to shape-shift and to change and to heal. And for years, many of us have been on that healing quest where we're letting go of our emotions and those deep-seated emotions. And sometimes you say, where did that come from? And it may not be in this physical realm that you have experienced. It may be from a past life. And we've come to the awareness that we don't have to relive those traumas. You just need to connect to it and ask it to go and raise your frequency up. So you can raise your frequency up with breath. You can raise your frequency up with sound and tones and binaural beats, and I know you call it something different, Judy, but most people know it by binaural beats, and it's 2 beats that are in each ear that create a third beat, and that third beat balances the brain. So it can calm you when you're a little bit anxious, and it can also raise you and move you into a very smooth place of focus where you manifest. So my favorite is the gamma brainwave, not to be confused with the gamma rays, but the gamma brainwaves, which are a frequency of the brain when it's a full brainwave, and the waves are going from the front to the back, to the front to the back. The whole brain is being exercised and activated, and the gamma frequency, the wave goes through 40 plus times per second. And oftentimes you will hear that when you first activate it. So the DNA emits an ultra-low electromagnetic radiation, EMR. The electromagnetic energy emitted from our DNA can actually create the hologram and complete an energetic projection of itself. And I spoke about this again last year, but it's worth bringing forth this year. And a couple people have spoken this weekend about holograms and toroidal fields. So our DNA has the same energy pattern as the torus or the toroidal field. And Dr. Rhine was working with DNA, and he was looking at the DNA through a laser correlation spectroscopy machine. And he, bless you, he lifted the DNA off the slide of the microscope, and when he looked back in the microscope, there was the image of the DNA that he had just removed. It was completely intact in the water in that DNA. Divine guidance. He takes that water and he puts it into a tube that has all the components that DNA requires to grow and to become strong. And that hologram formed a living physical matter of DNA. So what's that telling us? It's frequency. And we have that frequency. And no matter what comes at us, the perception of what we are dealing with in the 3D world can either be that of chaos or it can be that of illumination. So you can choose to focus your energy to remember and reprogram itself to the divine essence and the frequency that you were born, the essence that God gifted you when He made you from thought into physical form. So you have the ability, each of us have the ability to achieve that with our thoughts, and you do that through your heart, holding the center, you work your mind through your heart, and you raise your frequency. And this is what I just said. So Dr. Glenn Rhine also, and he works with Heart Math Institute, which is a lovely institute. If you haven't experienced them, it is really worth your time to do some research, and they have phenomenal information on balancing your heart and raising your frequency through your heart. So Dr. Rhine published a paper, The Effect of Conscious Intention on DNA. And what they found is that a psychic healer, or whether it's a psychic healer or it's a family member or it's just someone, can focus in their energy to heal and shift DNA, and somewhere else in another room or a few miles away or in from astronauts to their families, their genes, their cells, their frequency, their brainwave patterns are affected by one person thinking of shifting the energy. They did this study that in the astronauts, they had the astronauts with sensors on the brain, and they had their family members. The astronauts knew not what they were experimenting in. They just knew they were in a test. And they had the family members think about their favorite moments with the children. The son was thinking about playing catch with his father in the backyard. And the sensor lit up in the astronaut's brain where the family interaction would be. And then the wife thought about being intimate and how sweet that was. And the brain patterns lit up where the intimacy would be. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the same room, whether you're in another room miles away or out in outer space. Energy is energy. It's all connected. That's all in that oneness. So we have the ability to change our frequencies, change the energies and the chaos that are on this planet. We can activate our limbic system and our glia brain. We've been sharing that for years, and Mary and I both have books that explain more detail how to do that. Our first tool that we use for balancing our energy and raising our frequency is the Holy Grail Vortex. And those who are new, you have learned it this weekend, and those that have been here for a while are still here because they know the Holy Grail Vortex works. And it matters not whether you're shifting energy for weather patterns or for groundwork or your local community or within yourself. And the spiral breath. And that's where I was able to transmute a tragedy into something that was a gift that helped other people heal. So when I had my brain injury and I realized that I had a brain injury, because I had a brain injury, I didn't realize it at first. Then I asked God to show me how to heal my brain and to make me better, allow me to achieve better than I was before the incident. And that's where he gave me the spiral breath technique. So that I share that technique with others, and it's really nice to hear the achievements that come back from people who have read the book or done the process. Pure essential oils, they have to be pure. And you know we are a young living family, and we know those to be the purest oils that are around. Pure oils have the same benzene chain that our DNA has. So it vibrates our DNA. So when we put an oil on and we smell it, it goes to the brain, it activates all the cells, it activates our DNA. There's a product that I like to spark. It's Living Minerals, and it too helps activate and turn on the brain, and it gives the cells what they need and the energy to do what they do and to communicate with others. So I kind of incorporate all of these, some and then all. Sometimes it's very fun in my office and when I'm doing energy work. So meditation is also good, however you choose to meditate. When you get still and you make that marriage, that hierogamous, that sacred marriage of the mind and the brain, you are able to shift and move all things. So however you choose to get in your meditation and in that higher realm, there are so many ways out there, and what I share is just a way. Stacy here with sharing with theta, and Judy with sound, and we have frequency with Brian Besco. So sound, frequency, energy, that's the way through. I've already done that? Okay. So when we do the Holy Grail Vortex, we create a standing column or wave, and it resembles our DNA. To go into more detail, and a great video that you can watch on YouTube, if you go to Mary Hardy YouTube, look for the 17-minute Holy Grail Vortex. That's the most powerful. It's Steve did a phenomenal job in putting that together, and it's a beautiful way to teach you, for those that are watching this later, how to do the Holy Grail Vortex. And the spiral breath, we can do the spiral breath later on, and just see me, and most of you out here know how to do the spiral breath. But for those who don't, then I do explain it in the book. There's the shameless plug, and I have a DVD. But the spiral breath activates the crystals in our pineal and our pituitary. It activates our frontal lobes. It activates and stimulates the cerebral spinal fluid in our spine. And when you move into that higher consciousness, you move into a state of joy. And 3D life doesn't carry the weight when you start moving on a regular basis and you achieve that activation of the limbic system and the pineal. And when the pineal is really activated and engaged, it releases this little bit of elixir onto the 1,000-petal lotus. It's called 1,000-petal lotus because there's 1,000 folds up at the brain where the soft spot is when the babies. And there's folds, and it gets atrophied as we grow. But when you're doing breath work and sound and toning and essential oils, those little folds start to vibrate, and it's 1,000-petal lotus. There's 1,000 nerve endings, and it activates, and you'll start to feel a little whirl. For me, I feel like I have a fan blowing on the top of my head. And when that unfolds, I move into the sweetest bliss. It's hard to explain, so it's one of those things you have to experience on your own. But you see Jesus, you see different masters in the different cultures sitting on an open lotus. It means they've opened and activated their 1,000-petal lotus. And the beautiful thing about that is that when you activate your 1,000-petal lotus, you reset your DNA. So who wouldn't want to do that every day? So the more you breathe, the more light you breathe in, the frequency that you allow into your energy field, the higher your personal resonance will become. So here's a little image for those who haven't seen. So this image came to me when I did my prayer. So I asked God to show me how to heal my brain, and this emerald green spiral appeared in front of me. And because I had a brain injury, and I was seeing this with my 3D eyes, I waved my hand through it in disbelief. It's like, this real? And it kind of dispersed, but then it came back. And then I knew it was real. And then I was guided to breathe it in. So it breathed, as I breathed in my inhalation, the emerald green went into my heart because my heart was wounded, because my injury came from somebody I loved. And that was really difficult. And with all the teachings that I've been sharing, it's like, and my brother said one time, and you let this happen? Well, things happen to good people. And I'm in the mindset that if it wasn't supposed to happen, it wouldn't. In divine accordance, if it happened, it was supposed to. So it gave me an opportunity to utilize all the gifts and the knowledge and the training that I have received through my life, and accessing the higher realms and standing firm in my truth and my spirituality. And indeed, I healed and I became better than I was before the incident. So if I can do it, and I say this all the time, if I can do it, you can do it. So that trauma became a blessing. And the doctor I was working with said, can you work with some of my other patients? And I started sharing with them, and 3 became 13, and 13 became 30, and pretty soon I'm traveling around sharing this technique. And I share it because it works, and it's my gift, and God's gift to me, and my gift to you, because I didn't falter from my faith. And instead of and I'm human, I had my moments, but I didn't seriously falter from my faith. And the stronger I stand in the foundation of my faith and divine I am, the greater things I do. And Jesus says, all these I do, you can do and more. So I touched on the pure essential oils. I love working with pure essential oils. They move through emotions so fast. I incorporate it in all of my emotional healing, whether it's on myself or with my clients. So the thing with pure essential oils, because pure essential oils vibrate at your DNA, you have immediate uptake, and your brain recognizes that frequency, and the heart recognizes that frequency, and it begins to generate that frequency, even if it's just the little drop that you put on your wrist or you smell from the bottle. As soon as that frequency hits the amygdalas, boom, the brain is reproducing it and sending that frequency through the body. So what's beautiful too about the essential oils and the oils in the Bible, all the oils in the Bible, the ancient scripture oils, they all pass the blood-brain barrier. They all get in and help heal the brain and balance the brain. So pure essential oils, they're comprised of the same natural elements that are found in our body: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur as a minor element. And when you put those together, it's chosen. And you see in the matrix, oh, you're the chosen one. Well, we are all the chosen ones, because these elements are in all of us, and it's in all matter. So again, the oils of ancient scripture: frankincense, sandalwood, sacred sandalwood, cassia, similar to cinnamon, cedarwood, cistus or rose of Sharon, same name, same oil, cypress, hyssops, myrrh, myrtle, and onycha. So hyssops, you see in the Bible, wash me with hyssops. Hyssops washes misinformation out of the cells. Cypress reprograms the cells and our DNA to its original form. So again, the raindrop oils are also really good because I've seen it with myself. Originally, the raindrop technique was created to help with scoliosis, and I've witnessed that as I'm doing manipulations through with the oils, that the spine, a severe S-curve, went straight. And I wasn't sure that I saw that, and I looked down, got really close, and I knew that I saw what I saw because the girl that I was working on, her friend, was watching too, and we both leaned over to get a closer look, and we hit heads. So the raindrop technique works. And then we discovered that the raindrop oils were also working to raise the immune system, and they were helping people move through the emotions. So any of these oils are really good to use, whether you use them all together or you use one. Valor, we start with valor because it infuses courage. And one thing with Young Living oils, for those who don't know, Gary Young didn't create an oil and say, oh, I'm going to call this valor. I'm going to call this forgiveness. I'm going to call this envision. He knew the properties and the compounds and what they do to the body. And when it elicits forgiveness, it's because those compounds that are in that essential oil, when you put it on, allows you to move into forgiveness much faster. I say with grace and ease. And one time I was doing a little therapeutic session, and I was having a rough time, and the practitioner put an oil across my forehead. And when he lifted his finger from my forehead, I started to weep, these big crocodile tears. And I wasn't sobbing, I was just weeping. And as I wept, the fragrance is coming through me, and I chuckled and I said, that's familiar, but I can't put my name on what that blend is. And he smiled and he said, forgiveness. And he walked out of the room and he let me process on my own. So whatever the blends say on the bottles, they do exactly that. Can't say that for others, but with Young Living you can. So this year, they released the Divine Destiny collection. It's 3 oils. So those who were in the initiation and the ceremony yesterday, they got to experience the first one. So the directions are you use the first one for a week, then you layer the second one on top of the first one for another week, and then you layer the third one on top of the other 2, and you can go that way. So they are Daily Divine, I Am Blessed, and I Am Creative. And I'm also here to tell you from experience that yes, go away. Okay. So from experience, when I got my kit, I wanted to smell them all, so I put them on my wrist. Oh yeah, they smell so good. I put them on my mom. Yeah, it smells good. So we put the second one. Oh yeah, we blended it. Oh yeah, so we smelled it individually, and then we blended it together. I put the third one on, blended it together. In about 10 minutes, my mom and I are both like hanging over the end of the couch, and I said, I have to go to bed. Mom said, me too. And I got up and I laid across my bed, and I woke up 10 hours later, still in my clothes. And those who know me, I'm a 5 to 6 hour sleeper. So 10 hours of not moving and sleeping in my clothes, yes. And thank goodness it was 10 to 10 when I woke up. And I had a 10 o'clock client in my office. And of course, it's like I went from this bliss into, and I said, it's all good. And then my phone went ding. And I looked over, and my 10 o'clock said, I'm sorry to cancel on you at the last minute. Can we move it to next week? Absolutely. So all is good. So again, when things happen, you know, you're human, so you'll freak out for a minute, but remember that you are the divine creator of your destiny, and you can shift. So this is going a little bit into divine destiny, because Mary had asked me to go into this in more detail. So again, they were formulated to work with each other. So, well, let's see. I can't spread that. So, glasses, here we go. Daily Divine, it is the foundation of the collection. It's formulated to increase awareness, connect the energy that comes from the sun and Mother Earth through the plants. It was designed to help reflect an opening on your mind and your heart to make changes that you are seeking in your personal life, and to support progression to live a life of, autocorrect again, of, I think that's purity and service. Don't you love autocorrect? No. I am blessed. So I am blessed stimulates, that's the second one in the set. I am blessed stimulates the molecules in the Daily Divine, and it makes it more powerful, and connects in a subtle way into your inner being. So it's designed to expand your awareness and transformation of thought, to promote feelings of well-being and feeling good enough, which is a lovely oil to use, while acknowledging your gifts and your talent. And that's what we are sharing here in Sakkara as well. And I Am Blessed will help you move through that if you have those issues. I Am Creative is the third one, and it is designed to layer on top of the other 2. And it promotes, it raises your frequency, and it promotes through thoughts, words, and decrees. And the 3 blends work together to empower individuals to begin creating in their minds the world they so desire, putting the energy of your thoughts into motion to create the reality that you choose. And we do that because we hold within us our God-like, God-given abilities, and we are the immaculate mirror of God. That was the name Mary Magdalene was given as the immaculate mirror of God's image. We are also that, as it was from his and her thought, divine, all that is. When we were thought into being, that essence, that thought, became kinetic energy that became matter, and that spark of life runs through us. And it is because the grace that divine created when he created our planet and ourselves, we have the ability to rise above and shift out anything that does not serve us. So for those who wish to do things and aid yourself in your raising of your immune system, besides just doing energy and sound, there are a couple things that I found that help move the nanoparticles and the spike proteins from your body. My grandma, when we were little, she would add a little bit of 20-multein borax into our water, and we would drink that every day. She would put that in our bath water when we took our bath. So the mineral boron has shown to inhibit nanoparticles and spike protein replication. And this mineral has been depleted from our agricultural process. And borax is the precursor to boron. So you can find 20-multein borax in your laundry department, and a little bit goes a long way. And you do not want to get overzealous and say, oh, a pinch is good. So a pinch to 1/8 of a teaspoon of borax in 16 ounces of good filtered water, you could do that 2 to 3 times a day, helps flush out and inhibit the nanotechnology in our body. So start slow, work your way up. And the FDA has approved the max dose is 1/8 of a teaspoon per 100 pounds per weight and 1/4 teaspoon per 200 pounds. So it's lovely when you take a bath, add Epsom salts, little mineral salt, just your essential oils and your 20-multein borax. It's great. So another thing that has come up, there is a soldier who has written a book on the nanobot technology, and he used potassium iodide oral solution. SSKI is the brand that he used. And there are therapeutic doses. We as dowsers, we can douse to see what we require. 2 to 5 drops daily is really good. So as a lot of women know that when your thyroid is underactive, sometimes you have, you're not synthesizing the iodine. It's one of the reasons they put iodine in salt. So get a pure form and get an organic potassium iodide. So 2 to 5 drops daily. You have that and the essential oils, the 20-multein borax, sound, frequency, thought, heart, love, each other. So we can transmute anything that no longer serves us, and we can do it with grace and ease. It's your choice. You can make it difficult or you can make it easy. That's our freedom of choice. And preceding grace allows us to make our decisions, and Divine always asks to share, do so with grace and ease. So, thank you.